Hello, my name is Max Fairmont, and my life is a nightmare. I know that there are countless people who complain about the quality of their life, whether they're happy or not, whether they got the job that they wanted, whether they trust their partner or not. Frankly, I wish my problems were that simple. You see, I am a demon. It's something that I've known for a very long time, ever since I was a child. Truthfully, I don't know why my mother even decided to give birth to me. I suppose she was hoping that my conception was just a nightmare, some horrendous dream that couldn't possibly be real, that she was simply taken advantage of, and so she didn't want to punish me for it. But eventually, that changed. The day that a mugger broke into our house, along with a few of his friends. It was a home invasion. We had of course heard about them, but like most people, you never think it's going to happen to you until it does. That was also the day that I left home forever. I was only about 13 at the time when those men kicked in our doors, waving guns around, threatening to kill us. That was the first time that it actually came out. Before that, I had heard whispers, caught my reflection in the mirror, looking back at me, and somehow felt that that person staring back at me in the mirror wasn't me. But I always just brushed it off as my imagination playing tricks on me. Well, that was until that day when those men came rushing in and all hell broke loose. Very literally. I don't know how it came over me or why, but suddenly I found myself turning into a monstrosity. I killed all of them, near effortlessly, brutally. I could still see what was going on, experience it, but I wasn't really me. It felt like I was locked on the inside, behind a set of bars, unable to stop myself, unable to do anything but watch as I ripped them apart and enjoyed every second of it. By the time I was finally able to regain my senses, come back to being myself, I had already made short work of them, reveling in their death, before snapping back to myself, being terrified as I stood, covered in their blood, having ripped them apart with my bare hands. I was just a kid. I didn't know what to do. I was quite frankly terrified of what was happening, how it could happen, why it was happening. I turned to the only person that I really trusted, my mother. But I unfortunately did not get the reception that I wished. Instead, she drew a knife on me, telling me to stay away. Don't get close to her. Tears streaming down her face, terror in her eyes. She was afraid of me. As she huddled against a wall, that knife stuck out in my direction, just telling me to go away. And so, I did. I left my home, my mother, the only person that I'd ever really known, and went out to live on the streets, bouncing from place to place, just trying to survive, really. For a while, everything seemed okay. No more sudden outbursts. That was until my 19th birthday, the night of which I woke up after going to sleep and found myself covered in mud and blood. The door to my room open, the knob stained with the blood, An exterior window to the apartment that I was living in opened as well, leading out to the fire escape. Somehow, during my sleep, it had woken up, and apparently did something very bad, leaving a blood-stained trail right to me. I had always feared that thing, whatever it is living inside of me, would come back. And it did. After that, it kept happening. Again and again. I began to move from one place to the next, trying to get away from the locations, hoping that something would change. But it didn't. Time after time, I found myself awaking, having strange minor recollections of blood, pain, screams that felt like nightmares, and always awaking to finding myself stained with more blood. Eventually, I abandoned everything, working jobs, getting to know people. I was living on the streets, terrified of myself. I actually tried to kill myself at one point. Went up to the edge of a building, a very tall one, and right as I was about to step off, it was as if there was a flash, a switch, and suddenly, I was no longer at the edge of the building. I found myself in a crappy little hotel room. There in the hotel room were several dead people. Once again, I was stained with blood. I had it all over me as usual. But this time things were different. I had woken up right after the crime itself. This was fresh blood. No time to dry. It still felt warm. And drawn on the wall in the blood of the victims was a message just for me. The message read as thus: "You cannot escape what you are. There is no salvation in death." Terrified beyond reason, I did what I had always done at that point. I ran, leaving the scene behind me, disappearing into the distance, knowing that I couldn't even take my own life to put an end to it. Whatever it was, it wouldn't let me. So I was trapped, an endless nightmare after another. The repetition between these events continued to get shorter. When it first started happening, the events would be months apart. Now, it was nearly once a week. Once a week stained with the blood of some unknown person living out in there in the world, or that was living out there in the world. Some life that I was responsible for and couldn't do anything to stop. It was like it was eating away at me from the inside, tearing me down until there was nothing left. I was out of options, out of hope. It felt like there was nothing that I could do, like I would eventually just become this savage, monstrous thing, committing horrendous crimes, unable to stop it, unable to reason with it, that I would just become the monster that haunts my world when my eyes close. That was until I met him, the man who changed it all, who rewrote my destiny. There I was, just sitting in an alleyway, wishing that I could escape from this nightmare that is my life, gritting my teeth as I cried my way through another day, terrified that there would be nothing left of me eventually, that it'd just swallow me up, that there'd be no more me left. When suddenly I heard a sound. It was the ringing of a phone. I looked over to the side to see a cell phone lying on the ground. My first thought was, where the hell did it come from? I had been sitting there for hours. There wasn't any cell phone on the ground before, so what the hell is it? As I reached down, grasping the black cell phone, the screen displayed a title. It said, Deal. I don't really know what possessed me at the moment, but for whatever the reason, I answered it. Hello? Who is this? Hello, Max. How are you doing? The voice said from the other side, completely stunning me for a moment. How did he know my name? Whom was this? Yes, I know. You're probably wondering how I know your name. But I assure you, that's not what you need to be concerned with at the moment. You've been having some very severe troubles. I've been keeping an eye on you. And, truth be told, this isn't my normal sort of gig. You see, I'm what you might call a businessman of sorts. I make arrangements, plans. I barter and trade with people. I give them something that they want, and in exchange, they give me something that I want. But you never know where you can turn a profit in this world. Sometimes, things work out interestingly. And, as it were, I believe I can help you with your problem. And, despite the normal way I work, it'll be free of charge. What the hell do you know about my problems? Afraid to go to sleep, Max? Sick of waking up covered in blood? Feeling like your time's dwindling away? Oh, I know all too well, Max. I know exactly what your problem is. How? How do you know that? As I said, Max, I've been keeping an eye on you. And at this point, I am able to assess that you don't exactly know what's going on. You see, the truth of the matter is, Max, that you're half demon. You've probably felt this throughout your life, in any number of odd ways. However, I've most likely never been able to truly put it all together without any clear evidence, or someone to guide you. You see, a long time ago, when you were conceived, it was via a demon. There are actually two types of demons. It really depends on where they come from. The demon world is, of course, much different than hell. Hell contains pure demons, unsullied by any other spiritual essence or manners of being. They are 100% evil, right down to the core. There is nothing good in them. Their desires are very provincial, that of absolute destruction and despair. Death, pain, and suffering are all they truly desire. There are many ways that the demons who manage to crawl their ways out of the pit of hell attempt to go about this. One way, the way specifically chosen by your father, is the conception. They plant a seed within a woman, whether by seduction or force. They endow her with the spawn of a demon. She births the child grows to fruition, and upon this, the seed within them awakens, and slowly begins to devour away at them. The essence of a demon is a powerful thing. It's not something that the human soul is built to endure. In all basic aspects, there's a piece of hell inside of you, trying to gnaw its way out. It's been progressively taking more and more of you as time goes by, wearing away at your soul until it can take control completely. The man said over the phone, "How do you know all of this? Who the hell are you?" He said, "Where are you?" Oh, it doesn't really matter, Max. Honestly, I would show up, but your situation is a bit unusual. I'm afraid my presence might have a more negative effect than you might want. Your other half might just try to kill me. I mean, he would fail miserably. But I'd end up killing him, and then this entire effort would be for naught. So you said that you can help, right? You can stop it. But if you make deals, then why are you helping me? What do you get out of it? Well, technically, I've already claimed my end of the bargain. This deal was for someone else. Someone else wanted to help me? No. You're being far too specific. The bargain that I struck with someone else just so happened to weigh over into helping someone. And I've decided that you're the best option. A good fit, given the nature of the deal. Okay, I don't really get it. But if you say you can stop it, then I'm all in for it. What do you do? How do you do it? How do I make it stop? I exclaimed into the phone. I didn't realize that my hand was shaking as I was holding it. In a single phone call, it seemed like he had roused every fiber of hope in my being, praying for some sort of salvation from this nightmare. Well, it's simple, Max. I'm going to give you an address. All you do is meet me there. Once you arrive at the destination, I'll show up and we can begin the process. That's really all there is to it. Oh, and try not to dawdle, Max. I do have many things to attend to, his voice uttered, as suddenly the phone clicked off. Looking at it, it suddenly began to display GPS, giving an address and how to get there, which I followed with every fiber of my being. I must have sprinted most of the way there. Ran until I couldn't run anymore, just following that little line leading me to the address. And finally finding a small house on the outskirts of the town that I was in. It looked quaint enough. As I walked up, there was a note hanging on the door with my name on it. After reading it, the note gave clear instructions, saying, "Hello, Max. Go inside. There'll be another note for you on the coffee table. It will tell you what to do next." As I opened the door, walking inside, in the back of my mind just hoping that whatever this was, it wasn't that monster on the other side of me, playing some sort of trick, maybe as a hopes of tearing me down just a little bit more. I walked in to see a nice home, but I wasn't really concerned with how nice it looked. So I walked forward into the front room, paying no attention to anything else. And there, on a coffee table sitting in front of a sofa, was another note with my name on it. As I walked up, picking up the note and beginning to open it, it read as such: "Thank you for cooperating, Max. Your assistance has been invaluable. We can now begin the process," the note said, as suddenly there was a flash of red in the room, and I looked to the side to see a man in a high-class business suit. Very nice, black, red tie, a cane. A fairly young-looking gentleman, probably somewhere in his 20s, maybe 25. "Hello, Max. I'm glad you could make it." It was at that point I felt a pounding sensation, like something pulsating on the inside of my chest, a pain and a burning. And there it is. It appears that the negative energy that I tend to emit is beginning to have somewhat of an effect on that demon inside. It's rousing it, starting to wake it from its slumber. I was worried that this type of event might occur. "But don't worry, Max. It's all under control," he said, as all of the light seemed to fade from the world. everything went black again. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting on the floor, and all around me, the ground seemed scorched, like it had caught fire. Some sort of strange pattern burned into the ground, and there he was, just standing over me. Ah, welcome back, Max. I was actually fairly surprised. That demon inside of you had some real spunk. Whoever the parent was, they were much stronger than I anticipated. However, the end result was the same. I've resolved your problem. No more waking up covered in blood. No more worrying about hurting people. It's all handled. What? What do you mean it's all handled? What happened? How did you handle it? I exclaimed, wanting to know something. Well, first things first, he said, pointing upwards, as I looked up to the ceiling to see a bright red sigil glowing with ominous red light on the ceiling over my head. I had to lure you in order to trap you, or more specifically, trap the demon that dwelled within your soul. They're so much harder to deal with when they're running around. They can be quite troublesome. So I had to seal you into a single position. However, doing that without alerting the demon required a little bit of creativity on my part. So I set this little trap so that I could lure you into the circle without making him aware. Not on any true level. He most likely surmised that he could just kill me once I actually showed my face. And it all worked as expected. After I showed up, he attempted to rear his ugly head, but found himself trapped inside of the seal. So I was able to get to work, fixing your little problem, Max, which was not an easy fix. But luckily for you, there are actually some very generous people out there in the world. Generous people? Yes, Max. I've given you something. You can consider it a gift, a present from those generous people. The gift you've been given is known as an eternal light. An eternal light? Yes, it's an exceptionally powerful magical essence of sorts, an unbreakable one. They're extremely powerful and can have many functions. Angels use them to forge weapons. Angels? I replied as I stared at him. You're kidding me, right? No, Max, I would never kid. An eternal light is created from pure, unabiding love, kindness, and a will to help and protect others. When concentrated at high enough levels and bound together in just the right way, this creates an everlight, an eternal engine of light and hope. Think of it as a generator for positive energy that generates an everlasting flow of this positive energy. It can be used in many ways, and the one that I've just used to help you fix your little condition came on behalf of someone trying to do a good deed. You see, I get asked a great many things. There are people who want power or wealth, people who want love, people who want respect. But, as greedy as most people tend to be, every so often, you run across what I like to call extraordinary individuals. People who, against all given odds, want nothing for themselves. Instead, whether I consider it foolish or not, they are willing to barter just about anything in order to have a positive influence on the world, one greater than they can sustain with their own existence. Some barter away years of their life to try to counterbalance the flow of good and evil in the world. Some barter away their existence altogether. They're exceptionally rare. I'd say only once every few hundred years or so, based on the records left by my predecessor. And it just so happened that as of recent, I came across one of these people, and they struck a deal. They bartered away everything that they are or ever would be, and all they wanted in exchange was that they take the value of their existence and use it to create the most positive effect that I possibly could. They wanted me to use it to help someone save others, or stop the suffering of others, or that it be given to someone who could use it to stop the suffering of others. Really, it was sort of vague. It tends to be, but this gives me lots of options as to how I can use it. And I chose you, Max. The eternal light that I have placed within you will act as a purifier. You see, that demonic energy that you create, your human soul couldn't handle it. It was being poisoned by it. But with the Everlight in your system, you have sort of a filter. The Everlight will allow the demonic energy to pass through you, purifying out the negative intention, allowing it to meld with the rest of your being. What? I don't want it. I don't want demonic power. Well, sorry. That's not something I can do anything about. You were born the offspring of a demon. You are, in all essence, a demon yourself, even if only half. I can't change what you are, Max. Or, well, I might be able to, but the expense would be far too great. Besides, I've already cut a deal to give you that little gift. While the energy may be demonic, now you essentially can process it, much more like a demon from the demon world rather than the hell dimension, meaning it's finally your power and not whatever that thing inside of you was. Its existence has most likely been destroyed by the eternal light that I've placed within you. So it's just you now, Max. And now with the Everlight, you have more power than you ever had. You've done a substantial amount of damage, Max. So perhaps, whether you like being a demon or not, you should think about trying to give back a bit. Perhaps make the sacrifice that person who cut a deal with me worth what they dealt with. If nothing else, I stopped that monster inside of you from killing anyone else without having to kill you. That, in and of itself, is worth its weight in gold, at least in terms of the views of the person who made the deal. But you could always try to actually do some good. That is, if you can manage it, he said as he raised his hand, snapping his fingers, and in a flash of red, the seal above my head seemed to disappear. The rest is up to you, Max. Do what you want. I'm not the boss of you. I'm just here fulfilling my end of a deal. Nothing more, nothing less. Maybe I'll see you again sometime. Wait. Who the hell even are you? I asked as he began to raise his hand again. Oh, me? My name is Reginald P. Worthington. And I do hope that you're a satisfied customer, Max, he said as he snapped his fingers, and in a flash of red light and fiery energy, he just disappeared. On the table beside me, I found yet another note. After picking it up and reading it, it contained a letter to me from that guy, saying that the house had been put in my name. It was mine, along with some money in my bank account. The deed to the house was actually in the envelope, and the whole thing finishing off with telling me that I hope you make the best of it. And that is only how it begins. Truth be told, he's right. I may have been saved from this monster that was inside of me, but that doesn't undo all the damage that I did. If I do have the power to help people now, then in order to make up for those things, I have to, I said, as I stared around my new home.